Hi, welcome to another morning of Mindful Monday. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about conflict. I know we've been in close quarters, you've probably been with your partners or family, or even in just isolation by yourself, where conflict has probably been avoided at some point. These could be tough discussions, arguments, and if you notice, a lot of times when you do get into these arguments or discussions, you're usually triggered. You might get into a fight mode or an avoidant mode really fast. And what's usually happening is we're not triggered by the actual conversation we're having in the moment, but we're triggered by conversations from the past, interactions from the past. If we start to predict, oh, if I have this conversation with my partner, they're going to get upset, they're going to yell at me, and then I'm going to feel bad, so I'm just not going to have it. We start to avoid as a regular behavior. And what I'm encouraging this week is to not avoid these tough conversations, but actually change the dynamics. One of the acronyms I use to start addressing this is STOP. So when you're starting to have the conversation, when you notice you're starting to be activated, you can notice your hands are getting clenched up, you might start to sweat, is to stop, take a breath, observe what's happening in the situation, right? Be aware of what's going on. Is this something that you're being triggered by right now, or is it something from the past? Is it the way that the person is talking with you, or is it the way that you are feeling because you're vulnerable? Just become aware, observe that part, right? And then process. Be able to speak to what is going on for you. A lot of times we tend not to say what is actually happening, that we're afraid if I tell you that I messed up, that you're going to leave or that you're going to blame me. That the conversation we're having right now is very similar to the conversations I've had as a child, right? We tend to avoid actually processing what is going on and doing it out loud. Because when we make it overt, right, outside, then we can actually make some changes and create some new patterns in how we communicate with our family members, with our partners. The other technique that I wanted to offer this week is a breathing exercise where before you go into the conversation, you do this breathing exercise. When you know you have something that's going to be a little bit more difficult to talk about this week, and what it is you're going to inhale for 4, you're going to hold for 6, and then you're going to exhale for 6. So it looks something like this. So inhale, hold, exhale, inhale, hold, exhale. And so if you do that for a set of 5, where you're just doing the repetition, you're going to notice that at first you might feel like you don't have enough air. And that's something that's very common, where if we're feeling like we're not breathing enough, we're going to over inhale, right? And that creates more panic. So being able to have it at a set time where it's just 4 seconds inhaling, and then you hold, and you notice what it feels like when you're holding your breath. Because a lot of times when we get into arguments, frustrations, we tend to hold our breath. And what that does is it puts us in a fight, flight, or freeze mode. So if we're trying to have an organized, authentic conversation with somebody, we're not fully there. We're in a panic. We're in the state of stress. So being able to recognize what that hold feels like, and then when you exhale, that's 6, you're practicing relief. You're letting go. And so a lot of times when we are in these tough situations, we're holding on to the emotions, we're holding on to the feelings from the past. And if we can actively practice what letting go feels like before we go into that conversation, we're more prone to actually doing a nice, clean breathing movement when we have something hit our battle armor, right? When we hit the emotions, we will let it go rather than try to hold on to it. So try these techniques this week: breathing 4, 6, 6, and stop method. When you start to become aware of what's happening in those situations, the conversation can actually happen in a more fluid manner rather than going into the same cycle that we usually tend to repeat ourselves. So let me know what you think of these. Remember, breathe deeply, live fully. Have a great week.